Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'm really excited to moderate the next panel with two experts in the industry and entrepreneurs. And my name is Alana Tummino. I run the Young Professionals Network of the American Society and Council of the Americas, a place where young rising leaders in their 20s and 30s can get together and connect about issues important to them, usually related to Latin America. But the topics today of fashion and technology and entrepreneurship are really appropriate. So I'm honored to be here. I am joined today by Zack Hurley, the founder and CEO of IndieSource. IndieSource is an apparel manufacturer and fashion consultancy that was founded in 2011, redefining the way clothing is developed, produced, and distributed across the United States. Farther to my right is Gus Bartholomew, the co-founder of Supplycompass, people and tech businesses with offices in London and Dubai, founded in 2015, a sourcing platform where brands get matched with manufacturers, they create tech packs, and manage production all from one dashboard. So the idea is that I want to have a conversation with Zack and with Gus, and then hopefully we can have a conversation with you as well on some key questions you might have for our speakers today. So as you can see on the agenda, the topic for the panel is fashion designers and innovative supply chains, and how you can harness technology in that conversation to produce faster and scale your businesses. So I just want to really unpack that a little bit and talk to our speakers about what does that mean? What does it mean to change from a traditional supply chain to an innovative supply chain, and what is forcing businesses to integrate these changes into their business models? So I'll turn it over to you guys.
I mean, the first thing that I'd like to bring up actually doesn't have so much to do with technologies that you might think about, like automated sewing machines, but more having to do with location, which is that there is an ability now to really be producing things closer to where they're being sold. And as more companies and supply chains grow and are connected, it really makes it easy for us to consider the entire journey from the very beginning all the way through as fabric is made, and then materials are completed, brought over to the labor side, and developed fully. When I think about innovation, the first thing that comes to mind actually is more having to do with less waste, and I mean less inventory, and more products that we know are going to be sold and are needed. And then once you do that, I like to focus the shift the focus over to now how can you modify and use technology to make that even better. But really one of the first things is just looking at the end consumer, where the product is going, and what's available locally to start to build that infrastructure. That's my thought. Do you have anything?
I think it's interesting. I mean, definitely if you're looking at producing stuff kind of closer to home, that's definitely an option, but also looking about where the actual raw product is being grown. And I think there's equally an argument contrary to that to say actually you should be producing the garment again in the right quantities, but actually closer to where the raw materials are, so you're not doing too much in terms of actually transporting unneeded kind of waste fabric to kind of near the customers as well.
Can I follow up on that? So, you know, the idea of producing closer to home, what is that about? What is driving that? What is the, why do you think that is a good idea?
I think it depends on who you are, okay? So like I'm very adamant that if you are a newer business, if you're a designer, if you're under $1 million and you're getting started, you should produce locally for a number of reasons, most of which have to do with IP and making sure that you have your patterns, you have your sourcing, you basically know where everything is coming from and what's going on, and then you scale out. That's my opinion for a lot of my emerging designers, which, you know, it's not the same situation for a Levi's, of course. Now, there's always going to be a cost conversation, but I think looking at the landscape first there and then looking outwards makes the most sense.
And I think to that end too, the idea that kind of ties back into working within your community, supporting that local community in terms of sustainability and community. I mean, you said other good business related reasons as well, but I also think that ties back into working locally and empowering kind of local people in your community, I guess, that you're working with.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty excited about the transparency, and we have interesting business models that have a lot of really cool overlap and some that don't, but I think the main thing that we're both interested in is transparency and supporting workers to grow and like ultimately like not get stuck at the bottom.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would like to bring up with that is I think I agree in terms of, especially when you're kind of starting out, having that ability to be close to the people that are actually making your product is very important. You know, it's an incredibly manual process to actually take something from design through to delivery generally. But I think the way that I look at it is actually the exciting thing that we have here is that tech has the ability to bring the brands and the manufacturers closer together and actually enhance the ability to communicate effectively, which allows you to actually work over different distances and kind of provides a solution for what traditionally has had to be done very kind of close to home.
Can you guys tell me a little bit about, since this conversation is really about fashion and technology, talk to me about your businesses, how technology has played a role with that, how you're trying to harness technology more from a business perspective to achieve your goals.
Yeah, so I think there's a hell of a lot that can be done on the manufacturing side. So I've spent 2 years living out in India, basically visiting factories day in, day out, and everyone's always incredibly staggered when you kind of relay actually how manual the processes are in these factories. Like, there's not computers, it's all done on pen and paper still often. And so even just small incremental changes that can help to actually digitize the production side can have a massive impact on the ability to be more efficient for both brand and manufacturer.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things that you can look at. I mean, some exciting things include the possibility for more on-demand manufacturing when you look at, taking raw goods, let's just say sublimating, for example, on white fabric, having that right there in the same location, using a laser cutter, and then being able to sew at small quantities all in one place. The trick with that is it's a demand economics, so it doesn't work unless you have a demand side for the consumer where there's like a lot of buying going on, but that's all there and it's available. So one of the interesting things is that the technology to produce things more locally, which is a big focus of mine, really requires that there's the consumers that are buying into that and are excited about being a part of it.
A question that I want to talk a little bit about too that you guys are working on, and I think that is a big trending topic in the industry right now, is the idea of ethical sourcing and sustainability. Have you incorporated that into your models? What are more opportunities for even greater ethical sourcing in the industry or in your specific businesses?
Yes, I mean, our focus is definitely very much helping people to produce more responsibly. And I think the way that we see that is giving people access to the right manufacturers to start with. And I think traditionally that has been incredibly hard. Even the big players have worked very much in isolation, everyone building up their supply chains and trusted supply chains in silos. And now everyone needs to kind of have access to these people, and it's often difficult to actually get out there and do it yourself. So I think what we try to do is give everyone that access by kind of doing the work for them in terms of actually finding the right partners to work with.
Like, give an example of that, like so you find partners sorry, I'm just to follow up on that point in terms of a concrete example so it comes to life a little bit. So how does that work in your...
So for us, it's just spending time on the ground and actually seeing the manufacturers, ensuring that they're meeting the right ethical standards in terms of practice and product.
So brands hire us to manage the supply chain so that they can better focus their resources on the things that are paramount to them growing and scaling, because usually they don't have a full team of sourcing people and pattern makers and supply chain folks. So for us, it's basically like consistently weeding through the people that will not agree to a certain standard and getting rid of them. If they and a lot of it has to do with like really working with them too. I mean, I've gone and set up credit card like merchant processes for people. I've had the little things that you don't think about that help your vendors to be more efficient and effective. We've worked with, in the States, we have very different practices. So like our dye houses have a very different standard than overseas. So there's environmental things to think about. And then there's also just the knowledge that I walk in and I can see the people in my own eyes any day of the week, and I can see what's going on. So, part of it is having like, the certifications. Part of it is just me knowing what's happening. I can see it.
And how, you are working more in the US market. Gus, you're kind of more, you're in London and Mumbai and then working across more of the Asia region. What, are there any specific challenges or opportunities, I guess, to both of these markets and working in there?
In terms of?
I guess in terms of the geographic focus and in terms of, we're talking about anything from sourcing to supply chain to transparency.
Yes, I think naturally the geographical barriers do cause can be complex. I think for us it's about being on the ground and actually being there to kind of help give people that visibility. Obviously, if you can't actually just go and walk into a factory, if you're a brand, then you need other ways of doing that. The way that we currently do that for brands is that we film inside all of our factories, so that brands, when they first get matched with them, can actually get an understanding of where this place is, that they're actually producing, the kind of practices that are going on, and basically using that throughout the production process to help give them that visibility. And as well as kind of building on the certifications and the actual the working relationship that happens between the brand, us, and the manufacturer, trying to bring them closer together in every aspect.
Anything to add from a U.S. perspective, or? Well, any specific challenges you see or opportunities that you see in terms of sourcing and supply chain, the topic that we're talking about, but from a U.S. market versus working more internationally?
Yeah,
but I guess you've touched on some of that.
I'll say what's on everyone's mind, and it is obvious. I'm absolutely dealing with the realities of higher price points in the U.S., right? That's we all know that. So I think the next thing is, for me, what that means in terms of shifting my business for my brands is making sure that I can still develop new, amazing products for them here quickly and do everything. But then also, as they scale, I have Mexico as an option, and a really, really very close place for me to be able to produce some other things, and I can drive down, and in 3 hours I'm in Mexico. And as long as that I'm following the standards that we all agree on, then again it's helping the brand to do good, and we're also going to be able to benefit and continue to support them to grow.
And part of the topic of this panel is harnessing new technologies to produce faster and scaling your businesses. So how do you do that, but also continue to be ethical and sustainable in what you do? Because there's almost like this contradiction, I would imagine, that technology is enabling us to make, a lot of things faster, produce more, but do you then lose out on some of the other side of it?
Yes, I think on that, actually where the greatest efficiencies to be had is actually through the design development process. I think that's actually a core area where digital innovation can really, really help. Traditionally, everyone has always focused on the actual unit price cost of a piece of a garment, and that's been what has traditionally been driven down. But if you actually look at the whole process, 25% of a garment's cost is actually taken up from design development, QC, and head office costs. So that's really where we have an opportunity to use tech to actually allow people to make better product quicker at a more effective price point. That's definitely where our focus is.
Yeah, I think one of our core differentiators is our development, and so I think when you one of the things I've been excited about is we've been doing a lot of medical apparel, which has been fun, and a lot having not just scrubs that are silver infused with different types of antimicrobial thread and things like that, but also garments that are designed to help people in the hospital. For example, working with Rod Carew, who's a famous baseball player, and he has a heart condition. So we built this really interesting this shirt that has different compartments for his heart monitors and things like that. And so just being able to quickly tweak things in development allows us to and then we do small runs. So then they go test the market, and then we make something different. And so I think that's a huge importance in terms of being agile. And again, the number one issue is actually overproduction. So if we consider the fact that it's more about reducing the clothing that just doesn't even make it, then you're doing so much right there.
And that's interesting just to think about the different products that you can even make now because of both technology on both sides. Technology making these very interesting and unique designs, like you're saying, for heart monitors and things like that, but also the way it can help the whole process by which designing happens. So I think it's interesting to harness technology in those. Further on the conversation of technology, and then maybe afterwards, I'd love to open it up and get some Q&A from the audience, from you guys. You know, in this digital age and this digital shift, are you seeing that there's, you know, technology is playing such a large role in everything you're doing? Let's talk about social media, or let's talk about getting your brand out there. And have you guys been able to see, I guess, opportunities in that and everything that you do?
Yeah, I mean, we have the data to know what the customer is interested in. I mean, that's the coolest thing, right? And so from there, we can immediately make adjustments to what it is that we're doing. And so I think you've seen this a little bit, but you'll start to see a lot more designs up for sale that have not been produced. And so the faster we can, you know, get that to a level where it really works and there's not such a lag time, then, you know, you're basically eliminating all waste.
Yeah, I definitely see that, you know, the ability for brands to sort of trial out new designs before they commit to full production. That's definitely something that has a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, all this has to do also with just the fact that the barrier to entry to start any sort of clothing line has come down, and there's a lot of people that are jumping in. The problem, though, is that they don't have all of like the answers in terms of the supply chain. Excuse me. Yeah. And so what that means is that there's many, many people from all different areas trying to solve specific problems in their niche. And that's what's so exciting to me, is that, like, you know, I'm probably doing like 45 different lines right now, and they're all like so passionate about the very specific, you know, like a line for tall women who just are totally left out of the marketplace, like something so specific like that. And so that's so beautiful to me, because it means that like everybody now has power to solve a problem. And I think like when you have all those different perspectives, you can just do a lot of good.
Very, very quick, Zack and Gus, would you have any, like one piece of advice for the room of kind of entrepreneurs who are in the audience with us today, kind of in this realm of fashion and design and tech?
I think for me, it comes down to ensuring that you're harnessing the value and knowledge that manufacturers bring to the table. I think that where we need to go in terms of innovation is helping brands and manufacturers to be closer together, to work more effectively together, and to understand the opportunities there are for greater kind of collaboration. Because I really feel that's where you'll see better product at better prices.
Yeah, piggybacking off that, you have a finite amount of hours, and so unless you're a massive organization, you really have to be smart about where you're spending your time, and hopefully that should go towards the thing that you're best at. And so leveraging the manufacturer as a partner and not just somebody you're giving an order to, as part of your actual business, will allow you to be successful and grow to where you want to go.
Great. Thank you, Zack. Thank you, Gus. Thanks to everyone here for listening.
Thank you.